Hello. On today's show, we are revisiting some memorable moments from Intersections in 2023. We're looking back at our interview with Adam Mckinney, the artistic director of the Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, and the connection Pittsburgh has to gospel music that was written and produced in the Hill District. Plus, there is nothing like the sounds of the season. We're listening to some local school performances in downtown Pittsburgh. So pull up a chair and meet us at the corner. Intersection starts right now. Hello, I'm Lisa Smith, Director of Community Impact at KDKA+. Welcome to a special holiday edition of Intersections. We first introduced you to Adam W. Mckinney back in April. He sat down with me to talk about his new role as the artistic director of the Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, one of the nation's top internationally known ballet companies. Mckinney talked about his goals to meet the needs of the community through ballet and the direction he wants to see the company take when it comes to diversity. Allow me to reintroduce you to Adam W. Mckinney. For more than 50 years, the Pittsburgh Ballet Theater has lived out its mission to be the source of extraordinary ballet experiences. And now those experiences are in the hands of Adam W. Mckinney, the new artistic director of the Pittsburgh Ballet, and he joins us now on Intersections. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Welcome to Pittsburgh,
Thank
right?
you. Thank you.
So you've been here about 6 weeks now. What's it been like? What are you seeing? What are you liking?
You know, one thing that I'm realizing about Pittsburgh is that Pittsburgh knows what it means to warmly welcome people, and that is certainly my experience here in starting my 6th week as the new artistic director of Pittsburgh Ballet Theater. And the richness of arts and culture and its vibrancy is also one thing that I'm enjoying participating in.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background and what drew you to this position.
I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I did my studies at Butler University and danced with many dance companies, including Milwaukee Ballet Company and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. That's where I ended my career. And as artistic director of Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, I'm looking forward to bringing in my varied experiences in the form to make more vibrant, more robust, more engaging, more diverse the programming of Pittsburgh Ballet Theater.
So you're the first African American artistic director.
Yeah.
How important is that, I guess, to you, and how important do you think it is for this community?
In so many ways, representation matters. And as Pittsburgh Ballet Theater continues to be representative of the greater Pittsburgh area, it's important for leadership and our constituents to be represented in leadership, certainly, but also in other areas of the organization.
Yeah. Do you see, the lens that you're coming from influencing what we are going to be seeing on stage from now on in your role?
I do, and I see that those shifts are already taking place in terms of the creation of a culture that is representative of all Pittsburghers, in terms of who we will see on stage and the type of work that we will see on stage, in addition to the ways in which Pittsburgh Ballet Theater is engaging communities. Our slogan for next season is "Come Dance with Us," and it really is this embodied invitation to participate in all of our programming.
Yeah. You talked about community, and my understanding is that you enjoy doing a lot of community outreach. What does that look like here for you?
You know, prior to my first official day as artistic director, I had the opportunity to work with Hope Academy and teach a dance class to young people ages, 8+. So it means me as a person of color, as a Black person, being out in the community, engaging, ensuring that people feel welcome and know that they belong at PBT. It also means, for example, we had a performance this past weekend at the Benedum, and I had opportunities to meet people at intermission and really begin to establish those relationships. And one question that I'm asking is, what do you need of PBT? What do you need PBT to look like? and how can it be representative of you and your experience?
Yeah. You know, a lot of times, you know, when we hear ballet, we don't necessarily see a lot of diversity necessarily in ballet, especially people of color. So how do you see your ability to change that narrative?
Certainly there are historical perspectives that have disallowed people from participating in the art form, who ballet was for and by. What it means today is that our doors widen and our tables grow to ensure that people participate and are central to the art form. What I see in terms of the field is that there are changes being made every day. If you look at the rosters of who is performing in ballet companies, who is visible to ensure that young people know that they are central to ballet and know that they belong. All of those things are shifting, and we're seeing that field wide, and we're also seeing it clearly here at Pittsburgh Ballet Theater.
Yeah. So we know that the 23-24 ballet season is upon us, and it starts out in October. You were also instrumental in selecting a couple of the pieces for that. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. Our first program is called Light in the Dark, and it highlights one particular work by a Black choreographer, Jennifer Archibald, who lives in New York. And that work will be about the life of Florence Warren, who was a dancer during World War II and who used her position as a dancer to resist oppression. Certainly I'm selecting and curating works alongside that program. Of course, we have our Nutcracker, a fan favorite Nutcracker.
I heard about the Nutcracker.
Indeed, we'll be doing Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella, and really inviting people to participate in that program. And along with Pittsburgh Ballet Theater Orchestra, we'll offer a spring mix in April. And so we invite everyone to come and dance with us and participate in our programming.
Coming up, the art of gospel music, from songwriting to performing to distribution, right here in Pittsburgh. Intersections. We'll be right back. Well, did you know Pittsburgh holds a solid place in gospel music's history? Charles Pace was a composer, choral director, and owner of very successful gospel music publishing companies, along with his wife Frankie. And now many handwritten songs and even printed plates are safely stored in Pittsburgh and being studied as part of the Charles and Frankie Pace collection. Joining me are two people who know all about it. Dr. Christopher Lynch is the project coordinator at the Center for American Music at the University of Pittsburgh Library System, and Dr. Mark Burford is the R.P. Wallenberg Professor of Music at Reed College in Portland, Oregon. Gentlemen, welcome to Intersections.
Thank you.
So this is such an interesting topic. Dr. Lynch, we'll just kind of start with you and have you tell us a little bit about how the Pittsburgh Library Systems even got a hold of these artifacts.
So we've had the Charles and Frankie Pace collection for about 24 years now. We've actually had it for a long time. When Frankie Pace, who was the wife of Charles Pace, the gospel composer, when she died in 1988, the store where they had all of their materials, where they printed their music and sold their music, that was sold to new owners, obviously. And eventually everything that was in the store, all of the remaining music, their printing plates, all of that found its way to an auction. And Pitt bought it from that auction in 1999. And so we've had the collection since then. And we've just recently started really digging into it and starting this project.
But it was actually in the trash at one point.
That's right. I left out that detail there. So the family, we've been working with the family. We learned just about a month ago that they had thrown it out. What they knew then was that their parents printed the music and it was out there in the world, and the printing plates and all this stuff in the store, it seemed like garbage at that point, and they threw it away. So somebody garbage picked it,
Yeah.
and eventually it found its way to the auction, and we bought it.
So when you came across this information, you kind of began to form an understanding of how this music went from, you know, composition to printing to distribution.
Yeah.
And we have some of those images of like the negative and also the plate and then also the printed song. How some of these songs were handwritten, correct?
That's right. That's how he would notate all of his music, was first written out by hand, and he'd use stencils, and it would look really neat. It would look as if it was printed. And then he would take a photograph of it, and then he could take a negative of that photograph, and a real negative. So all the white on the page would appear as black, and what was black on the original page was clear. So light could shine through the text and the notes. And then he'd put that plate on that photograph on a flat metal plate and expose it to light, and the light would harden the metal, and the metal that wasn't exposed to light was soft, it was softer, and then could be washed away with chemicals, creating the raised letters and notes on the metal plate, which then he would use to print the music on a printing press. Yeah. So this is how he made his music, and very little of his printed pages survive. But what we have in the archive are a lot of the negative photographs and a lot of the printing plates. And so what we're doing now is we're using those materials to get the music back on the page and back in performance again.
Yeah. Dr. Burford, we want to talk a little bit to you also because, you know, you study gospel music. How significant is it to actually come across some of these artifacts?
Well, you know, studying the history of Black gospel music can be tricky because it's both in plain sight and out of sight. And I think especially in the early years of the modern gospel music movement in the 20s, it wasn't documented in the way that other musics were documented. There were no reviews. It's not covered by journalists in the same way. It's not marketed in the same way. So we've had to rely a lot on oral history. So the sound of Black gospel music is everywhere and pervades American culture and music, but the individual musicians tend to be a bit more obscure. So whenever you do have an opportunity to come across a trove of stuff that you can actually study like this, it's actually quite rare. It really is transformative for the study of gospel music. I think it also transforms how we think about the early decades of gospel. It's been focused on Thomas Andrew Dorsey, who was a pioneering songwriter, but adding Pace's compositions to that history and thinking about what other kinds of Black gospel music was circulating in the 1920s allows us to tell a richer story of that period.
And you mentioned performances, both of you actually, and we have some video from a celebration that was held last month. So let's listen to a little bit of that so we can hear a little bit of the sound of the Charles Pace collection. So are there any special characteristics to the way his music was written and performed and composed?
Well, one of the things that I love about his music is he was one of the first gospel composers, or at least of the modern period of gospel music, writing in the 1920s. And you can hear all of these different influences in his music. It's really a pivotal moment in gospel music history. So you can hear in that example, they're singing, "Everybody will be happy when the saints go marching in." And the notes and the words, "when the saints go marching in," are borrowed from the older song that everybody knows, "When the saints go marching in." So Charles Pace is sort of taking elements from older music and incorporating them in his own original songs in a new way. And this would then become a really important element of all gospel music, you know, starting with Pace and then going on, where everybody takes this from somebody and this from somebody else and then puts their own spin on it. That becomes sort of one of the key elements of gospel music. So I just love that you can hear that in that excerpt and in Pace's music in general.
And Dr. Burford, just going to give you the last word on just the significance of all of this.
Well, I think a lot of gospel music is lost that we hear, as I mentioned, oral history, but the conversion of these archival materials to actual sounds, something can be heard, but also, as Dr. Lynch suggested, kind of interpreted by contemporary musicians, taking this older tradition and kind of making it relevant to the present. I think that act of translation is a really important part of gospel music history as well too. So it's both a kind of a tradition and a distant past, but also a kind of living tradition as well. So it's very exciting to have that in circulation.
Well, gentlemen, thank you both so much for being with us today. I think this is so interesting that it's all right here in Pittsburgh. So we'll look forward to more of the study. Thank you again. You're watching a special holiday edition of Intersections. Coming up next, we hear the sounds of the season. It's been a tradition for decades in Allegheny County. This year marks the 55th annual holiday music program, where school students from around our area deliver holiday music in the grand staircase of the Allegheny County Courthouse. We're happy to share some of those performances with you from the Woodland Hills Chamber Choir, the Kappa Jazz Ensemble, and the Chartiers Valley High School Orchestra. Enjoy. I'll have my last word when we come back. Thanks. We appreciate you watching this first year of Intersections and embracing the stories from people and communities around Pittsburgh. The conversations have been rich, connected, and solution-oriented. We look forward to more in 2024. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Intersections.